Neena Perez, and this is Straight Talk, no sugar added. Thank you so much for watching. This show is created to discuss life topics and hopefully challenge and transform your thinking. I am really excited today because I have someone here I have been listening to for like about 2 weeks now, and she decided that she would give me some time. So I'm excited. Her name is Coach Mel, and Melissa Stewart is born and raised in Central Illinois, and she is a certified life and health coach. She's a salon owner and a hairstylist for 20 years, a personal trainer, and she owns her own residential and commercial cleaning company. So she's just a little busy. Just a little. She feels called to use her personal journey through a devastating failure over a decade ago and her rise back up to the top to help others in hope and self-belief, right? So that they can overcome their setbacks and use it for success. So she is raising 2 amazing teenagers on top of everything I already mentioned. And she is married to her best friend, and he's what keeps her focused and going forward. And I'm really excited you are here with me, Melissa. I have been really wanting to have this conversation with you. I feel like I know you because I've listened to you so much, and I love your podcast. It's called Beautifully Restored. And just the title alone makes you want to listen to it. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for stepping out and doing a podcast.
Thanks, Neena. I'm kind of flattered that you feel that way, and it makes me feel good. That's really what I want people to walk away from the podcast feeling. So that's great. Thank you for sharing that.
It's been fantastic, and you have great guests. So it's so good to hear. And I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. Oh, that's a great idea. Oh, wait a minute, that's a great idea. I've listened to like 20 of them. So I wanted to start off by I know that I gave a little bit of your bio, but if you can just introduce yourself to our listeners so they know a little bit more about who you are.
Yeah. So, the bio explains a lot of what I do. But man, it's been a journey of a life. I started off in a whole different world and, have had to morph into a new world. I grew up this conservative Baptist, very, very sheltered, in a very extreme legalistic type environment where we were put a lot of rules on us and a lot of judgment. And then, grew up that way, thought I was going to marry and be in the ministry for the rest of my life. I married a pastor when I was 18 years old, and we were high school sweethearts, and I had never considered doing anything else other than being in the ministry. I felt called to the ministry when I was probably 14 years old. I felt like God was calling me to go into the ministry full time. And so I thought, you just think, and probably everyone can relate to this, you're 17, 18, 19 years old, and you have to kind of decide what you're going to do. I'm going to go to college and I'm going to become this. You kind of bank on that, and that's the direction you go. And boy, I got married when I was 18 and thought that's what I'd be doing for the rest of my life. So I didn't think I needed an education or any training and anything else. But life throws some crazy stuff at you, and things don't go the way you thought. And then all of a sudden your world's flipped upside down and you don't know what you're going to do. And that's really what happened to me. And so that's part of that journey of getting here where I'm at now, which is a better place. And I'm so thankful for where I'm at, thankful for the mistakes that I made. And now, owning several businesses that I started out of necessity, single mom, at some point then we got divorced and had to make money, and thought I was going to be a stay-at-home mom, in the ministry my whole life. So didn't think I needed anything. Thankfully, I learned how to do hair, and I had my license for that. So I had to get a real big girl job, and I got several other jobs along with that just to survive, and then created these businesses out of necessity. And now I run them out of passion and love, and have added the coaching to it, which is absolutely my passion because it's helping people. It's very ministry for me.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Yeah,
it is. So it's kind of like, I wanted to be in the ministry my whole life. And even though it looks differently now, it's not technically the ministry. It is a form of ministering and helping people. And I'm thankful. I'm so thankful for where I'm at now. And I really wouldn't change a whole lot about that.
Yeah, I love that you said, your mistakes are just not going to define you, right? So you're using those mistakes to now teach others that their mistakes don't have to define them. And that's such a powerful thing because all of us have so many mistakes, right? I mean, at 18 years old, you also think you know everything, right? You discover very quickly, you know nothing. But I love your podcast because it's very honest, and you talk to your guests as if they're your friends, and maybe they are. And some of them I know you just met because you go, hey, I don't know anything about you, so tell me a little bit about you. And I'm just like, but you're so natural at that. And I was thinking that when you were talking to about the ministry thing, because what we think ministry is just turns out to be whatever God really wants it to be, right? I
Mhm.
wanted to ask you that though. How is your faith walk? Do you still have a belief system?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh, good.
I never doubted my faith in God. He never left me through all of that.
Right.
Everyone left me through all of that. And
Yeah.
I tell that story, and you've probably heard it by listening to my podcast and maybe following me on social media. I don't tell that story for people to feel sorry for me. I
Right.
also don't want to make the church look bad or Christians look bad. But the church and the Christians in my circle failed me. And of course, let me say, I put them in a position, a very difficult position of not knowing what to do with me.
Mhm.
I screwed up so big time. Here I was in a conservative Baptist church. I was an assistant pastor's wife, and my sin was big time, and it went public, and
Yeah.
everybody found out about it. So I put all those people in this position of like, what do we do with her? And it's tough because looking back now, I can boldly say that they made the wrong decision by casting me out
Mhm.
and not accepting me in because I was sorry. I was so sorry. And I was repentant. I wanted restoration. I wanted help. I can remember the day the pastor, and he was in his 70s. He'd been a conservative Baptist his entire life, kind of a soft man, but a hard man too. And I can remember the day I sat in the office crying, begging for forgiveness, and him saying to me, I'm sorry, but it's better for the church if you leave.
That's
And it was kind of like a business decision. Like I was bad for business, like sometimes businesses are better without something. And he thought that business was going to be better without me because he thought if I stayed, there might be members of the church that could be offended by saying, you're going to let her stay here after what she did, after who she hurt.
Mhm.
And so instead of allowing our family to repair and to get better, he told me I needed to leave. And I'll never forget walking out of that office, walking down that long hallway, grabbing my big book off the piano, knowing I'd never play there again, knowing I'd never sit in those pews again. That was my family. That's all I had. That's all I knew. I didn't have a job outside of them. I had nothing. And I remember walking out of there with that book devastated and honestly feeling like I don't know where I'm going to go. I have no idea what I'm going to do. And I didn't know where I was going to live. I didn't know where I was going to, because my husband didn't want me to live at home with him anymore. We had 2 children. They were little. Um, I didn't know what I was going to do, where I was going to go, and where to start. I didn't have a way to make money. I didn't have a car. I had nothing.
Man,
And
that's
I
awesome.
and bigger than all of that, I didn't have a church. Honestly, I think that was the most devastating thing to me. I looked at the pastor and I said, "What am I supposed to do? Like I don't even know where to go." And I remember him saying like, if you need some help, I can help you find a place. And I was like, you don't even want me here. I don't know that I'm going to feel comfortable coming to you for help.
Right.
So that was almost 13 years ago. And that was a tough place. That was probably the lowest place I've ever been. My family disowned me too. Again, I don't tell this story like don't feel sorry for me. The people that are listening
I
to this
get
now,
it. Yeah.
I don't want anyone to be like, "Oh my God, that's hey, listen, I did what I
Real talk.
yeah, it's real talk.
Yeah.
I did what I did. I took 100% responsibility for it. It was stupid. I can't even believe I look back and I'm like, what in the heck was I thinking? And I did what I did. And I put all those people in this very tough place. I put that old man pastor who had this church that he'd been growing and nurturing for 20 plus years. And I freaking took it and I just wrecked it by my actions. How could I be mad at him for that?
Mhm.
So he kicked me out and I accepted it. I was like, well, okay, I got to go figure this out. And that's what I did. I put one step in front of the other, and I never got bitter. And I think that's what has helped me. You asked me if I still have faith. Oh my gosh. I'm going to be, leaving here in a couple hours and going to my church, my new church, and playing the piano for them all weekend. Thankfully, they use me. They love me. They accept me. It's an amazing environment. It's not Baptist, but that's, and nothing against the Baptist, but I did need to kind of just get away from that. And I had to go into something different. And My faith in God was the only thing I had. He's the only one besides my brother who didn't leave me. How could I ever turn my back on him and
Right.
for something that I had done? So no, my faith has really never wavered. Now, my
Right.
trust in church,
Yeah.
it's been a little shaky, and I'm careful. I'm very careful, but I am so thankful for God's restoration power, his forgiveness, and all of those relationships that were broken have been restored. That same old man pastor, he's in his 80s now. Him and his wife, they come to my salon and I do her hair. And it's been a lot of years before that happened. They called me like this was 13 years ago. They called me 3 years ago. And she said, Melissa, I can't find anybody that can do my hair right. And she said, preacher told me, that's her husband. Preacher told me to call you. And I said her name and I said, of course you can come. I'll do your hair. I'd love to have you in there. So the same people that cast me out and kicked me out, uh, our relationship has been restored. My relationship with my family is 100% restored. My parents are my biggest cheerleaders.
Great.
I never thought they would ever be proud of me again. And my parents are very proud of me. So my story is one of restoration. That's why I call my podcast Beautifully Restored, and to show people that not only can your life be restored, but relationships many times can be restored, and everything can be restored back to you tenfold if you do the right things with your life in that time. I
Yeah.
could have taken it a lot of different directions,
Yeah.
but I decided to keep going, to not be bitter, to take full responsibility and blame no one but me, and to make it right. And I think that's why I have the full restoration that I have.
Yeah, I believe that. I mean, even as you were saying that, I was thinking she owned her shit. She owned it. You know
Yes.
what I'm saying? You
Yes,
owned
I
it.
did.
Hey, I'm not even supposed to say that word, but hey, you owned
That's
it.
okay, girl. Sometimes you gotta say it. I
I
did.
mean, honestly, because I live my life like that. That is literally my motto. Like, I live my life like that. If I did something, I own it. I own it, right? Because I feel like that is the way I'm going to be authentic. That is the way that people will receive you to be authentic. And that is truly the way you can transform the lives of others, right? And that is the goal, right? It's not about really about Melissa as much as it is about everybody watching you, including your children, right?
Mm.
Because they're watching. They were impacted as well, right?
Oh
So
gosh,
they're
yeah.
watching and they're going, okay, how is she going to do this? How is she going to do this thing? Is she going to be bitter? Is she going to be angry? Is she going to blame others? No, you owned it. You know, so now they can't do nothing. They got to own their stuff too, you know,
Right, that's right.
and they're teenagers. So
Uh-huh.
that is really hard to own your stuff when you're a teenager.
So true. Yeah, I gotta say, when you brought up the kids, a lot of people are so ashamed of their past and they hide their past.
Mhm.
I was for a lot of years. So 13 years, it hasn't always been this way. The first many years, I hid my past. I hid my story. I wasn't openly talking about it. I wanted to kind of separate myself from it
Yeah.
and kind of be like, that's no longer, I'm trying to be new. And that's true. I do want to do that, but I also want to use my story. My story is powerful, and I've used it in the life of my children. Tell my kids, they know exactly what I did, and they know all the consequences I have paid for it.
Mhm.
And I am honest with them about that. So they know sin and your mistakes, or however you want to call it. If you're a believer and you want to look at it as sin, if you want to just say that it was failures, mistake, these things impact not only you, but they impact those around you.
Yeah.
I hurt hundreds of people with my sin.
Right.
And I want my kids to know, no man lives on an island. Everything that you do affects others around you. And so I have taught my kids that and shown them that if you make a mistake, and you will, but if you own it and you take the steps forward to be better and to grow from it and to learn from it and to be used by it and then forgiven and restored and all of that, you can be better and stronger for it. And I have witnessed my kids now come to me about difficulties in their life. And they've even said, my son even one time said, Mom, I knew I could come to you about this because I knew you wouldn't judge
Mm.
because of what you've been through. I was shocked when he said that.
Powerful.
And it was like, you know what? I'm so glad that I've been honest and I didn't hide this from them.
Yeah.
And I didn't chuck it off on somebody else and say it was somebody else who did this. And I'm not to blame, because I've taught them. My kids could have lost a lot of respect for me when they found out the true story, but instead they see who I am now.
Right.
and they've earned respect for me. They're actually proud of me. It's really cool to know that my kids are proud. My daughter tells me that, Mom, I'm proud of you.
Yeah. Isn't
And
that
that's
great?
awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it makes you human. It makes you human, right? I mean, my kids are the same. I wrote an autobiography about my life. My life was, and so I had to be honest and truthful. My kids cried through the whole reading of the book or whatever. But, there's something powerful when your kids tell you that they're proud of you, right? Because you know how you feel when you're proud of them, right? And it's such a cool feeling to know
Yeah,
that, and they're the most important. They're like the most important. So if they
absolutely.
don't judge you, who cares who does?
Then who cares who does?
Who
Absolutely.
cares? I don't care. I
Absolutely.
do love something I heard you say, Melissa, and you said it in your very first podcast. And you said, my growth can be more powerful than the destructive mistakes that I have made, and it brings me hope. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is so freaking powerful. Did you write a book yet?
Not yet, but it's on my list.
Good.
It's
Get it
one of my
done.
goals. I write every day. I write that I've written a best-selling book.
Good.
And so I do. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that. I haven't said that statement in a while. I actually heard it from a pastor's wife at my current church. And she said that even though, yes, our sins, our mistakes, our failures affect a lot of people, our growth can impact and affect far more. And when I say that my sin and my mistakes hurt hundreds, that's a lot. Like a lot of people would go, dang, like my sins and mistakes don't affect hundreds. They affect like 7 people maybe. Mine affected hundreds because I was a leader in a church.
Right.
So we're talking hundreds. But guess what? My growth and my restoration and my story now and who I am can impact thousands,
Right.
if not more.
If not
And
more.
that makes it worth it. And that makes it awesome. And that makes it, I'm so thankful for that. I just posted yesterday on Instagram about do-overs because I heard John Maxwell talking about it. If you could have a do-over, would you have a do-over in your life? And if you realize the power in your failures, you would say no, I
Right.
would not have a do-over because all of that makes me who I am today.
Right. I mean, hindsight is beautiful. Hindsight is
Hindsight is
beautiful.
beautiful.
I know when you're going through it, you're like, no, but
Um,
hindsight is a beautiful thing. So, what is like something that you give people when, I want to go back a second. How hard was it to enter a new church? Because wasn't it a little scary, unless you did it after you started your podcast? I'm not sure. But I would think that it would be a little scary, like the new church would find out,
oh
right?
God.
Was that tough?
Yeah, good question because the church I'm at now was not the first church I went to straight out of that mess. I went to another Baptist church and then another Baptist church after that. I walked in there basically with a sign that said, "My name is Melissa Stewart and this is what I did."
Mm,
I felt like I had to tell everyone. So I pretty much made a relationship with the pastor and his wife at both churches, those first 2 churches, and said, "I got to be honest with you because this is why I did it, Neena. I felt like it was only fair that they know so they could decide whether or not they wanted me there."
wow.
And it's kind of sad that
Mm,
I felt that way, but because of what I'd been through, I genuinely just felt like it was only fair. In
yeah.
fact, I did this with friendships, with boyfriends along the way in this journey. I felt like people needed to know. So I almost kind of led with it and would tell people about it pretty quick just so I could be like, do you still want me around? Because if you don't, I understand.
Wow.
I was very humbled about it. I felt pretty low about it. So I thought people had the right to know. I also especially felt like with the church, if they wanted me to like be involved in the music ministry, because I sing and play the piano. And I knew I would probably never be in a teaching position ever again. But I thought, well, music, maybe I could still be used in the music. And I felt like they needed to know that. Like, you may not want me up on the platform because if people find out what I did, they may be like, really? You guys have her up there? That's the way I viewed it. Now, this church that I'm a part of now, I did not lead with this story. By the time I got to this one a handful of years ago, I had created a new identity for myself
Great.
and I did not identify with that person any longer. And I felt like people, hey, I'm telling, the pastors of these churches are not coming to me and telling me all their sins
Right.
and all the mistakes that they've made.
I was just
Before
gonna
you,
say that.
yeah, before you come to my church and become a member, let me tell you everything I've done in life.
Right.
Why do I feel like I need to do that?
Right.
I find, you know what changed that for me, Nina, was surrounding myself with people who put that belief in me. My husband was like, "You don't owe your explanation to anybody." My husband now, that I've been married to for, well, we've been together for like almost 7 years. But he was like, "You don't owe that explanation to anyone." And, that's not who you are. And so I think just getting around people that empowered me in that way. Now I don't walk into a church, but yes, oh my gosh. And I still have that fear. Like, what if people find out if I lose a client at my salon or something like that? I used to think like maybe they found out about me and like how bad of a person I was or something. But that's less and less. I don't think about that as much.
Yeah. Well, because if that's their attitude, then you don't need them. Um,
Exactly.
you really don't, because
Exactly.
let's not sit here and be phonies. We all got some stuff,
Yeah,
and
right.
if everybody found out all of our stuff, man, we would have very little friends for sure.
Absolutely. That's
So
right.
I wanted to ask you, like, how you now take all of that, and I know you started your podcast to kind of slowly show people that they can overcome their mistakes as well. What do you say to someone who is stuck in that mistake? Like, how do you encourage them out of that? Because that's a difficult thing to constantly remind yourself that you are not the sum of your mistakes.
Yeah. You first have to have a lot of self-forgiveness and love and
Yeah.
compassion and realize that we all make mistakes and that you're not a bad person. We are broken people sometimes. And, I could probably, see a therapist and they could give you all kinds of explanations of why I did what I did, right? You could go down that road too to kind of figure out why maybe you went down the path that you went and all that. But when it all boils down to it, we're all just broken and hurt people, and we make mistakes, but we don't have to identify with them. They don't have to become who we are.
Yeah.
And the important part is that moving forward, we are changed and we have decided to be stronger and better. And I always say that when you're in the middle of that or you're just out of it, in the early stages of coming out of a difficult situation or whatnot, you look forward and you cannot see the road ahead. You definitely can't see the destination. I had no idea where I was going. I had no idea where I was going to end up. I didn't know if I'd ever find anyone that would ever want me again. I didn't know how I would, develop a career and provide for me and my children. I had no idea, but I didn't need to know all of that.
That's good.
I didn't have to know every step of the way. All I needed to know was one thing: the first step.
Yeah.
What's the first step? What can I do right now to just move myself, just inch myself forward? And then once you inch yourself forward that little bit, then you just think about the next step after that. You don't have to see and know the journey, because the journey is going to take you in a different way than you ever planned anyway. Just know that you just have to take one step, and then if you take that, you can go from there.
That's so good, Melissa. So good.
Good stuff, man. Straight talk, right?
Life is a beautiful thing. Life is a beautiful thing. And I love being broken. It's like one of the best things ever, because I realize, especially the older I get, that I really don't know anything,
Yeah.
and it's a
Yes.
beautiful thing to constantly learn. Although it hurts sometimes, it's a beautiful thing to constantly learn. I wanted to ask you one more question. Do you feel like, because you have faith, do you feel like that is what kind of helped give you a foundation? Do you feel like that was a big thing for you to help you move forward?
I think so. I try to keep my mind open to the audience of people that are listening to me and you,
Yeah, absolutely. Me too.
that they're not the same kind of believer that we are, or maybe they put their faith somewhere else. And I try to respect those people, because I know we come from different walks, but it is a source of strength for me.
Yeah,
Um,
me too.
God has forgiven me of so many things. And because of that, and I believe that he sent his son to die for me. I believe these things. This is part of my faith and who I am. This is who I am. And some people may not understand that, but he forgave me of so much. I always looked at that as, how could I not forgive other people? So
Mm,
what helped in my bitterness was that that I forgave other people that had also wronged me. I forgave my parents who didn't know what to do with me at the time. So they just had to take their hands off and leave and go for a while. I forgave them for that. I forgave that pastor and his wife. I forgave the people of the church that didn't reach out to me because I'd been forgiven of so much. How could I not forgive them? So that kept me from bitterness. So my faith played a role in that. And then also just in those moments when I was alone and just tortured in aloneness, at night sometimes, and just thinking about what I had done, just knowing that I had God saying, I love you anyway.
Yeah.
You know, you are broken, but because you're broken, I want you. Like, I want you more now because you're broken, because you're more usable. I can do so much with you because you're broken and you're willing.
Yeah.
And that's just huge for me. I drew very, very close to God during that time.
Yeah.
So I think it was a big part of it. Although I do have a lot of self like belief and strength now about myself, getting healthy
Yeah.
physically and getting strong. I lift weights, all that stuff helped me too, outside of my faith.
Yeah.
So there's other avenues, but man, my faith, I don't know if I could have done it without.
Yeah, I feel the same way, but I do respect other people's views as well, because I think that once you own your stuff, faith or not, it humbles you.
Hmm.
You get humbled. And so when you
Yeah.
get humbled, I think it is easier to forgive. It is easier to see other people making mistakes. It is easier because you just, faith or not aside, you can see it and go, I know what I did.
Yep.
I
There
know,
you go.
I know that I'm not 100%, the best perfect person. So that's a good thing. And it's very humbling. And I think, humility and being humbled is a very powerful thing in your life. Own it. It's fine. Just own it,
Yes.
and I think you're going to get far. Mel, you are amazing. I wish I was like next door so I could run over and just give you
Oh,
a
I
hug.
know.
But I'll give you a virtual hug since everybody's like now virtual,
Yes.
It's been a great time with you. And thank you for sharing your heart with us the way you have. And if you don't mind just letting us know how we can find you, how we can follow you, listen to you, all of that great stuff, please.
Yeah, the best way to find me is Instagram. That is my platform that I prefer. I'm not even on Facebook right now, but Instagram, it's Mel Coach, MELCOACH 80, Mel Coach 80 on Instagram. I have a link tree there. So it links to my website, my podcast. I do put my podcast on YouTube on the channel Coach Melissa Stewart. But it's also on iTunes and Stitcher, Spotify, Google, all that stuff too. It's called Beautifully Restored, as you said. But really, Instagram's a really easy way to find me because you just go to my link in my profile and everything's there. So,
That's fantastic. And I'm already a follower. I'm already a fan. So,
oh, you're
oh,
awesome.
good. In fact, I have you on my phone right now because I was listening to you talking to Casanova, and that was awesome.
Isn't he awesome?
That was all.
So much
Yeah.
fun.
I mean, but all of your guests are awesome, and you're just so natural at talking. And you're into sports. I see the Bears and all this other stuff. I'm like, I know nothing about sports. We won't go there.
Love sports, yes.
But I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking the time to be here with me. Thank you.
Neena, thanks for having me. You are great. I
Thank you.
adore you. I
Thank you.
appreciate you. And thank you for having me on. It means the world to me.
Yeah, me too. I mean, like I have to, I kept going like this because I had to get the tears out of the eyes, but it was beautiful. Thank you. Guys, I want to thank you guys so much for watching and listening to us. Don't forget to go on and subscribe to our channel, Straight Talk, No Sugar Added with Neena Perez. I will make sure to link all of Melissa's information so that you can find her, listen to her. She's fantastic. So thank you guys so much, and we will see you soon. Until next time.